In the annals of true crime, few names evoke as much chilling fascination as Ted Bundy.
He was not a hulking brute lurking in shadows, but a handsome, articulate law student, a master of deception whose charming demeanor disarmed countless victims and baffled authorities. His story is a stark reminder that evil can wear the most appealing disguise, a serpent cloaked in charisma. We delve into the life and crimes of Ted Bundy, exploring how a man who seemed destined for success became one of America's most notorious serial killers, leaving a trail of terror and unanswered questions.
Born Theodore Robert Cowell in Burlington, Vermont, in 1946, Bundy's early life was shrouded in secrecy and deception. He was raised believing his maternal grandparents were his parents and his mother, Louise Cowell, was his older sister. This fundamental lie, maintained throughout his childhood, created a distorted perception of family and identity. Moving to Tacoma, Washington, as a young boy, he grew up in a seemingly normal suburban environment, yet subtle signs of disturbing behavior would later emerge, hinting at the darkness brewing beneath the surface of his carefully constructed world. Despite his troubled home life, Bundy was perceived as intelligent and capable. He attended the University of Puget Sound and later the University of Washington, where he studied psychology. His academic career was marked by periods of engagement and disinterest, dropping out multiple times.
He was articulate and performed well when motivated, hinting at the potential for a conventional, successful life.
Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy, a darker ambition festered.
He volunteered for political campaigns and even worked at a suicide crisis hotline, activities that paradoxically showcased his ability to manipulate and connect with people. A pivotal moment in Bundy's psychological development is often linked to his relationship with his first serious girlfriend, a wealthy, attractive woman he met in 1967. Her family's affluence and his own insecurity about his modest background created a complex dynamic. When she eventually broke off their relationship, citing his lack of direction and ambition, it was a profound blow to Bundy's ego. This rejection is theorized by some to have fueled a deep-seated resentment, particularly towards women of a certain type, and to have acted as a catalyst for his burgeoning violent tendencies and desire for control.
After his girlfriend left him, Bundy underwent a remarkable transformation.
He returned to the University of Washington, excelled academically, and was accepted into law school at the University of Puget Sound. He even rekindled his relationship with his former girlfriend, now a more polished and successful version of himself. But this outward success was a mere veneer. Beneath it, his dark compulsions were beginning to take root. His double life was starting, a promising student and charming individual by day, and a predator meticulously planning his monstrous acts by night, honing his ability to blend in. The year 1974 marked the terrifying onset of Bundy's killing spree in the Pacific Northwest. Young women began disappearing from college campuses and public parks, seemingly vanishing without a trace. The disappearances were initially treated as isolated incidents, but as the number grew, a chilling pattern emerged.
Bundy meticulously planned his attacks, often staking out locations, observing his victims, and exploiting their trust.
He would feign injury, impersonate authority figures, or simply use his charming persona to lure women into vulnerable situations.
The region was gripped by fear, unaware a monster walked among them.
Bundy's early victims, like Linda and Healy and Donna Gale Manson, were often college students in the Seattle area.
His method involved preying on their empathy and trust.
He would approach women in public places, such as laundromats, bus stops, or college campuses, with his arm in a sling or feigning a need for help, asking them to assist him with his sailboat or car. Once he had them isolated, he would overpower them and abduct them, taking them to remote locations where he would commit his horrific acts. The sheer audacity and repetition of his tactics demonstrated a chilling confidence. A particularly notorious incident occurred in July 1974 at Lake Sammamish State Park. On a busy summer day, two young women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, disappeared within hours of each other. Witnesses described seeing a handsome man with his arm in a sling, asking for help with a sailboat.
This brazen daylight operation underscored Bundy's audacity and his ability to blend into plain sight.
The park was crowded, yet he managed to abduct both women, leaving behind only the chilling accounts of witnesses who had no idea they had seen a killer in action.
The public was now truly on edge. As law enforcement in Washington state intensified their investigation, Bundy decided to relocate.
In late 1974, he moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, ostensibly to attend law school at the University of Utah. This move was not just a change of scenery, it marked an expansion of his hunting grounds. Believing he had grown too recognizable in the Pacific Northwest, Bundy sought new territory where his methods could be employed with renewed anonymity. The pattern of disappearances soon followed him, spreading fear across new communities, far from the initial focus of the Washington police. In Utah, Bundy continued his rampage. He abducted Carol Duranch, a parole officer, from a shopping mall in November 1974, attempting to handcuff her. Duranch bravely fought back and managed to escape, providing authorities with a detailed description of her attacker and his distinctive tan Volkswagen Beetle. Shortly after, other women disappeared in Utah and Colorado, including Melissa Smith and Laura M. The pattern was undeniable: young women, often abducted from public places, vanished without a trace. The scope of his crimes was beginning to emerge, spanning multiple states and terrorizing diverse communities.
Bundy's luck finally ran out in August 1975.
A Utah Highway Patrol officer, curious about a suspicious vehicle, pulled over a tan Volkswagen Beetle in Granger, Utah, in the early morning hours. The driver was Ted Bundy. Inside the car, the officer found a crowbar, an ice pick, handcuffs, pantyhose with eye holes cut out, and other suspicious items. Although Bundy claimed they were for skiing and burglar protection, the officer's instincts proved correct. Bundy was arrested, not for murder, but for evading arrest.
This seemingly minor infraction would be the beginning of the end for his freedom.
During his interrogation, Bundy maintained an unervingly calm and articulate demeanor, denying any involvement in the disappearances. However, Carol Duranch, the woman who had escaped his abduction attempt, positively identified him in a lineup. Furthermore, forensic evidence, including hair samples found in his car, began to link him to other victims. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, connecting the charming law student to the terrifying string of unsolved cases. Bundy's carefully crafted facade was starting to crack under the weight of mounting evidence and victim testimonies. Ted Bundy was charged with aggravated kidnapping for the abduction of Carol Duranch, and a separate murder charge related to another victim. The trial was a media spectacle, with Bundy's charm and intelligence on full display, attempting to sway the jury. Despite his articulate defense and claims of innocence, the compelling testimony of Carol Duranch, combined with the evidence found in his vehicle and his suspicious behavior, led to his conviction. In March 1976, he was found guilty of the kidnapping and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. This was his first conviction, but far from the last chapter. While serving his sentence in Utah, Bundy was soon linked to murders in Colorado. In 1977, he was extradited to Aspen, Colorado, to face charges for the murder of Karen Campbell. During his pre-trial preparations, Bundy, a law student, was granted the unusual privilege of assisting in his own defense, which included access to the law library at the courthouse. He saw this as his opportunity. In June 1977, he leapt from a second-story window of the Garfield County Courthouse Law Library, escaping into the wilderness. This daring escape shocked authorities and ignited a massive manhunt. Bundy's freedom was short-lived. He was recaptured just 6 days later, disoriented and hungry, after getting lost in the mountains surrounding Aspen. He was subsequently placed in a more secure holding facility, the county jail in Glenwood Springs. However, Bundy, ever the manipulator, was already plotting his next move. Just a few months later, in December 1977, he executed an even more audacious escape. He sawed a hole in his cell ceiling, climbed through the ventilation system, and dropped into the apartment of the chief jailer, whose family was away for Christmas, before walking out the front door. He was now truly free, and utterly dangerous. After his second escape, Ted Bundy vanished, making his way across the country to Florida. He found refuge in Tallahassee, a city bustling with young college students, offering him an abundance of potential victims and a sense of anonymity in a new state. Unbeknownst to the local population, the notorious serial killer who had terrorized the Pacific Northwest and the Rockies was now living among them. His arrival in Florida marked the beginning of his most brutal and infamous crime spree, a period of intensified violence that would ultimately seal his fate. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, Bundy unleashed unimaginable horror upon the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. Breaking in through a back door, he moved silently through the sleeping house, brutally attacking 4 young women. Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy were bludgeoned to death, and both were sexually assaulted. Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner were severely beaten but miraculously survived, albeit with lifelong injuries. The brutality of the attacks, carried out with such ferocity, horrified the nation and proved that Bundy's violence was escalating dramatically. Just an hour after the Chi Omega attacks, Bundy broke into a duplex apartment a few blocks away. He attacked another FSU student, Cheryl Thomas, beating her so savagely that she sustained permanent brain damage and hearing loss. Miraculously, she also survived. The immediate aftermath of these crimes sent a wave of terror through Tallahassee. Police were overwhelmed, and students feared for their lives. The brutal nature and close proximity of the attacks clearly indicated a highly dangerous individual, yet the full scope of his identity remained tragically unknown to the Florida authorities. Less than a month later, on February 9, 1978, Bundy claimed his last known victim, 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. She disappeared from her junior high school in Lake City, Florida, a small town a short distance from Tallahassee. Her abduction marked a disturbing shift in Bundy's target demographic, from college-aged women to a child. The discovery of her body 2 months later, in a secluded area, confirmed the worst fears. Kimberly's murder would ultimately become a critical piece of evidence, irrevocably linking Bundy to the Florida crimes and leading directly to his final capture and conviction. On February 15, 1978, just 6 days after Kimberly Leach's disappearance, Ted Bundy was pulled over by a police officer in Pensacola, Florida, for driving a stolen car. Bundy attempted to resist arrest, but the officer quickly subdued him. During booking, his fingerprints were run, and the shocking truth began to unravel. His identity was confirmed, and the FBI's most wanted serial killer was finally in custody. The national manhunt spanning years in multiple states had come to an end, bringing a collective sigh of relief, though the true scale of his atrocities was still largely unknown. Ted Bundy's trials in Florida became an unprecedented media spectacle. His striking looks, intelligent demeanor, and audacious escapes had already made him a notorious figure, but his courtroom antics propelled him into infamy. He often dismissed his lawyers, choosing to represent himself, transforming the courtroom into his personal stage. This decision, while seemingly reckless, allowed him to manipulate the proceedings and engage directly with the public, often charming spectators and journalists, further cementing his paradoxical image as both a monster and a captivating personality. The world watched, horrified and fascinated. The trial for the Chi Omega murders began in Miami in June 1979. Prosecutors presented a mountain of compelling evidence, but the most crucial was a unique piece of forensic science, a bite mark. Bundy's teeth impressions perfectly matched a bite mark found on Lisa Levy's body, providing irrefutable physical proof linking him directly to the crime. This was one of the first times bite mark evidence played such a pivotal role in a major criminal trial, setting a precedent for forensic investigations. Coupled with eyewitness accounts from Chi Omega survivors, Bundy's fate was increasingly sealed. After weeks of intense testimony and Bundy's theatrical self-defense, the jury delivered its verdict. On July 24, 1979, Ted Bundy was found guilty of the murders of Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, and 3 counts of attempted murder. He was sentenced to death in the electric chair. His reaction to the sentence was chillingly composed, showing little emotion. This double death sentence marked a significant victory for justice, but it was just the beginning of a lengthy appeals process that would keep Bundy alive on death row for another decade, prolonging the anguish for victims' families. The following year, in 1980, Bundy faced another trial, this time in Orlando, Florida, for the kidnapping and murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach.
The evidence, though circumstantial, was compelling.
Bundy was identified in Lake City near the time of Kimberly's disappearance. Her body was found near a location where Bundy had been known to frequent. While no direct eyewitnesses to the abduction came forward, the accumulation of evidence and his previous convictions painted a clear picture for the jury. This trial solidified the brutal extent of his reach and his complete disregard for human life, regardless of age. On February 10, 1980, Ted Bundy was again found guilty, this time for the murder of Kimberly Leach, and received his third death sentence. This conviction was particularly significant as it showed a disturbing evolution in his predatory behavior, preying on a child. With 3 death sentences across 2 trials, Bundy's legal options were rapidly narrowing. Yet, he would continue to exploit every legal avenue available, filing numerous appeals and delaying tactics, attempting to avoid the ultimate consequence of his horrific actions. His tenacity in manipulating the legal system was almost as chilling as his crimes. For nearly a decade, Ted Bundy resided on Florida's death row, a labyrinth of appeals, legal maneuvers, and last-minute reprieves. During this period, he became a subject of intense psychological study, consulting with profilers and authors. In the final days before his execution, Bundy began to confess to more murders, offering grim details to investigators from various states. He sought to trade information about unsolved cases for further stays of execution, playing a final, desperate game. These confessions provided crucial closure for many families, finally confirming their loved ones' fates and the monster responsible. While Bundy was formally charged and convicted for a handful of murders, his confessions, coupled with circumstantial evidence, suggest a far greater number of victims. He confessed to at least 30 homicides across several states, including Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, and Florida. However, investigators and profilers believe the true tally could be significantly higher, possibly exceeding 100. The precise number may never be known, a chilling testament to his ability to evade capture for so long and the systematic nature of his predation across such a wide geographical area. His victims ranged in age and background. As January 24, 1989, approached, Bundy's legal team launched a frantic series of last-minute appeals to spare his life.
These attempts were largely unsuccessful.
Meanwhile, outside Florida State Prison in Stark, a carnival-like atmosphere developed.
Crowds gathered, chanting slogans and celebrating the impending execution. The public's desire for justice, after years of Bundy's manipulation and evasion, was palpable. This raw, emotional outpouring reflected the profound impact his heinous crimes had on the nation, and the collective relief that his reign of terror was finally, truly, coming to an end. In the early morning hours of January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was led to the electric chair at Florida State Prison. After making a final phone call to his mother, and refusing any last meal, he entered the execution chamber. He reportedly offered no final statement. At 7:16 a.m., the switch was thrown. Theodore Robert Bundy, one of America's most infamous serial killers, was pronounced dead.
The execution brought a definitive end to his life and his crimes, closing a dark chapter in American history and offering a measure of closure, however small, to the countless families he had shattered. Ted Bundy's legacy transcends the grim tally of his victims. He remains a chilling case study in criminal psychology, a stark warning against judging solely on appearance. His ability to charm, deceive, and manipulate highlighted the vulnerability of society to predators who do not fit conventional stereotypes. His story continues to be studied by law enforcement, psychologists, and true crime enthusiasts, seeking to understand the nature of evil and to prevent similar tragedies. He exposed a frightening truth: monsters are not always easily identifiable, and often hide in plain sight among us. Psychologists have extensively analyzed Bundy, largely concluding he exhibited characteristics of a high-functioning psychopath and a severe narcissist.
He lacked empathy, displayed superficial charm, and possessed a grandiose sense of self-worth.
His crimes were driven by a profound need for control and power, often escalating in brutality as his confidence grew. He viewed his victims as objects, not individuals, and expressed no genuine remorse for his actions. This profound deficit in moral and emotional capacity is what made him so terrifyingly effective and utterly devoid of humanity. Bundy's multi-state crime spree fundamentally changed how law enforcement operates. His ability to cross state lines highlighted the need for better interagency cooperation and information sharing, leading to advancements like the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP. The use of bite mark evidence in his trial also pushed the boundaries of forensic science. His case served as a brutal, real-world lesson, accelerating the development of criminal profiling techniques and emphasizing the importance of detailed victim and suspect descriptions. His destructive path inadvertently forged new tools for future investigations. Decades after his execution, the fascination with Ted Bundy endures. His story has been recounted in countless books, documentaries, and films, each attempting to grasp the enigma of his dual nature. This persistent interest speaks to a deeper societal unease, the realization that evil can reside in the most unexpected places. Bundy's case serves as a dark mirror, reflecting our own vulnerabilities and fears. It's a perpetual reminder that appearances can be profoundly deceiving, and that vigilance against those who manipulate and harm is an eternal necessity. The Ted Bundy case offers critical lessons for society. It underscores the importance of trusting instincts, even when confronted with charm. It highlights the dangers of complacency and the need for communities to remain aware of potential threats, even from individuals who appear harmless. Most importantly, it reminds us to never forget the victims whose lives were tragically cut short, and to honor their memory by striving for a safer, more just world. His story is a somber educational tool, a cautionary tale etched into the collective consciousness, urging perpetual vigilance. Ted Bundy's name continues to echo in the lexicon of criminal history, not merely as a serial killer, but as a symbol of concealed malevolence. His narrative serves as a harrowing reminder that the most dangerous predators are often those who expertly blend into society, their true nature hidden behind a mask of normalcy and charisma. The terror he inflicted and the lives he extinguished leave an indelible mark, urging us to remain ever vigilant and to seek understanding in the darkest corners of human behavior, ensuring that the lessons learned from his monstrous acts are never forgotten.